George has taken his place as lead actor in the film.
Right. I like this chair.
What's your favourite genre?
I think I need to be on this one, unless someone else is. Is this yours?
No, I'm not touching that. I don't know whose it is.
I think that's Harris's.
Around 2 months ago, and it was like, you know how like a year 12 drama, it's always like
George, are we all right to
he
start?
hit me. Nice.
You have to, which sound like being on time.
I was sad. Help.
Someone will give you a nod when we hit 50.
Are we not at 50 yet?
Oh.
It depends how many you're online. But we're not yet.
No, yeah.
If we don't hit 50,
not one but two boys in my
natural start.
family.
We haven't hit quorum, so we're gonna do all the votes indicatively. So we'll still do the meeting, and it'll be indicative. And at the next council where there is 50 people, then we'll sign it all off. Okay.
Right,
I will
okay.
never forget the tuna mayo sandwich on the boys' bread. It was grim. Maybe, do you reckon there is room in the Untitled? Oh no. But then maybe if we shuffle along that way.
You're doing the union board.
I am. I'm just prepping some bullet points for it.
Yeah. Do you want to?
The others have sent over some notes.
Abby's asking me.
I called on them, not gonna lie. If we can get that way.
Harris is up there.
Well, I do have some pretty comprehensive notes, so it should be pretty good on that front. You can go.
No, it's busy.
It's a good thing you can squeeze like a Russian gymnast.
Join us.
That's quite a lot of screens.
Yeah, I know. I'm not touching any of them.
Are they going to switch themselves?
I hope so.
Simon, who's controlling the PowerPoint behind me?
You are.
Do I have to speak?
No. Just sit down and eat your pizza, Harris.
I think I don't need my screen. We have too many over here already.
Okay, would you like me to run and get some people from the office just to chat? Okay.
How do you feel
Powerful.
being on the top? Slam the hammer.
Yeah, there were definitely things that as the campaign went on, I was like, oh, I didn't mention this, didn't like, start,
I think it should be on the campaign page.
Ah, what are you running for?
President.
Good lad.
You know me, I told you.
I'm getting drips and drabs and hearing from people. I'm not getting the full picture yet.
I'm just waiting for the list. I really want to know how many people are running.
21st of February that list comes out. We don't even know.
21st?
21st of February.
I think the list was coming out on 10th, like by the evening. That's
You'd have to ask Mr. Watkins.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. Like, that's what he said.
Joey.
that email really helped me.
It looks way too formal on this side of the table.
Okay. How many are we on? I'm not logged on.
Sorry?
I'm logged into Omnia, but I don't really need to be logged into Omnia.
I think you'll be fine. Do you have any motions?
No. Well, what, for today's council?
Yeah.
We got a building motion that's going to be a good laugh.
How was the campaign?
Housing campaign. It's good fun actually.
Or is it still going on?
Yeah, it's going to be on. We're going to keep it open probably until about the end of February, the link. But we've had a big push this week, and then I've got a bit more to do tomorrow. And then we'll keep the link open. We got a story in the Courier tomorrow. on Monday. So it's exciting.
So how's the turnout?
Last time I checked it was probably Monday and we had 38 people submit stuff. Ideally I'm going to write a report, or we get our campaign assistant to write the report that's got at least 100 people. Just because then it's got a bit of weight behind it.
Yeah.
We do not run around the union. If you see somebody move around the building without a t-shirt, but we don't
Okay. Is that fifth Laura? Laura.
We would encourage people to wear masks.
You get lost.
It's not. What happened was we went from the university's message was very strongly.
Is that 50? One that's come in. Right.
Again. So if you're councillors, if you think it's a good idea to say you prefer people to wear masks, it's just to you. But it's not.
Brilliant, that's good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's annual general meeting for Newcastle University Students' Union. We have just hit quorum, so we shan't hang around any longer and we shall crack on with this meeting. So as I said, first of all, welcome everyone. It's great to see you all here, both in person and online. Shouldn't take more than 20 minutes, but we'll see how quickly we can rattle through it. Firstly, we are passing on apologies from Abby, who is off sick with COVID. She's obviously disappointed she couldn't be here, but she is resting up and you'll see her back in the union not too far down the line. We've got 5 key items that are required under company law to get through this evening. All students are able to vote in the AGM, so if you're not a council member, don't worry about that. You can still participate in the voting. So first of all, we're here to ratify the appointed trustees for this year. We've got the 7 elected sabbatical officers and 2 student and 2 external trustees to be ratified, all of whom were appointed by the panel in accordance with the NUSU constitution. So before we get to the voting, does anyone have any questions about the appointment of trustees? No? Excellent. So for all of those who are ratifying the trustees, can you please either raise your hand or put an F4 in the chat, please? So all in favour, raise your hands in the room or F in chat. Anyone voting against, please raise your hand now or put an A in the chat. And any abstention, raise your hand now or put a B in the chat. Sweet. So that has passed. Next up is the appointment of the auditors. It was proposed that the annual general meeting agrees to approve the reappointment of UNW as auditors of the Student Union for a 1-year term as per Finance Committee's recommendation. And in doing so, Finance Committee want the AGM to know that they are very happy with the auditors, that this year's audit was very clean, which is good, and that best practice would suggest that we look to change the auditors every 5 years. Hence, we will do 1 more with the current set of auditors and then go out to tender after this next academic year. All those in favour of reappointing UNW as auditors for the student unions, please raise your hand now or put F in the chat. Anyone voting against, please raise your hand now or put an A in the chat. And any abstentions, please raise your hand now or put a B in the chat. Brilliant, so that has passed. Next up is to approve the annual accounts. So we're going to hand over to Simon Gerry, the Chief Executive, to touch on a couple of key points.
Thanks, Fergus. Really, every year I just really touch on 1 page of the accounts. It's page 23. And what you'll see on page 23 is the fact that we made a £26,000 deficit last year, which might sound bad, but at the beginning of the year, going into COVID with all the uncertainty, we actually had a predicted deficit of up to 136,000. So we did well to save some money in places while still delivering as much of the student experience as possible, and you'll hear about that in the impact report, which we're going to brief on a little bit later. So all in all, if you look down the left-hand, press the button. There you go. Sorry, just so you can see the page I'm talking about. If you look down the left-hand column, which is the unrestricted funding, the Student Union have got a target of having £300,000 reserve. So if we do have a particularly difficult year, we don't have to switch things off, basically. And you can see down the bottom there, the bracket 26 is the minus figure, and that left us with funds brought forward of 261,000 in the bottom left-hand corner. And then because of that, we set a budget this year to make a £40,000 surplus. So if we hit the budget this year, we will be back up to our reserve target. And actually, if you ask student unions around the UK how they're doing, that is a very good position to be in. I heard of somebody the other day that used up £800,000 of their reserves during COVID because they got hit so hard. So we're in a fairly stable position. The finances are looking okay going into the few years ahead, where we're trying to rebuild engagement and the student experience. So that's the key bit of the accounts really people tend to want to know about, but I'm happy to take any questions on any of the accounts. I know they were all emailed to all students about 3 weeks ago. So any questions on the accounts? If not, I'll hand back to Fergus for the vote.
So we'll now vote on the Student Union accounts. So in order to approve the accounts, all those voting to approve the accounts, please raise your hand or put an F in the chat. Anyone voting against, please raise your hand now or put an A in the chat. And any abstentions, raise your hand now or put a B in the chat. So those accounts have passed. One. Still passed.
Sorry.
Next item is to approve last year's impact report, and first of all we're going to show a short video, and then Eleanor, the postgraduate officer, and Simon will present the brief to go along with it.
support package to help students referred to us from the Student Wellbeing Centre, mainly around their mental health.
In terms of energising students to take on career-enhancing or skill development opportunities, this was very challenging last year. We did introduce an online offering, but this could not replace some of the in-person activities we would normally provide. As a result, it wasn't surprising to see the fall in students believing they were more employable, from a pre-COVID figure of 70% down to 39%. That said, it wasn't all bad, and the numbers completing the NCL Plus Advanced Award doubled, and you can see from the numbers there our NEST project continued to make a meaningful impact in our community. And I should mention as well how delighted we were to see Bridget Stratford, our lead project worker for NEST, get an MBE in the New Year's Honours List for her work on the project. We also saw our new First Responders project come into its own as our medical students supported the North East Ambulance Service.
Thank you. Next on to our most challenging area last year, which was providing students with exciting and new opportunities. This was very tricky, and a lot of work went into planning our Freshers event programme and subsequent activities throughout the year. The Freshers programme was planned with backups in mind, and they were needed as new restrictions were announced just a few days before Freshers. Our activities programmes were also affected and subject to constant change and short notice changes at that. But we did have 3,876 students participate in the Give It a Go activities, and societies did come up with a whole new range of new and innovative ideas for online activity. However, the impact was seen in our figures, as only 72% of students were satisfied with the range of opportunities offered, compared to 88% the year before.
A couple of other things to mention. Feedback on comms was still very positive, and our social media reach improved significantly as we increased our focus on Instagram. Staff satisfaction remained relatively high, and we had no COVID cases related to in-work transmission, as we took a safety-first approach. Financially, it was very challenging, and we finished the year with a £30,000 deficit, which was actually quite positive, as initial forecasts were for a potential £136,000 deficit when commercial elements closed. Lastly, I just want to mention Dorothy picked up our Best Student Union Award from Educate North.
Yeah, just to clarify, that 30,000 was rounded, so the accounts were right at 26. In terms of what now for this year then, it's all about rebuilding, resetting and reviewing our offer. We're rebuilding to try and get back to pre-COVID engagement levels with students. We're resetting programs and activities that may have worked well online, so we're looking at what we're doing and how, and we're reviewing student feedback as we go to inform a new 3-year strategic plan going forward. And just at a glance of what this year is looking like so far, this is something that we sent out to staff actually in November, December time. And it just shows you some key touch points and how many students were getting involved in some of the activities that we were actually putting on.
You should have sat next to each other.
Thank you. And lastly, just looking ahead, the officer team are already formulating thoughts on where our emphasis should lie in terms of things like well-being, mental health support, sustainability, and the wider student offer. What we've concluded is that we really need to be looking at our facilities with a view to some major refurbishment and reallocation of space, or taking on more space. Societies, for example, are really struggling to find space at the moment. And the last major refurbishment was now over 10 years ago, and things are starting to look dated. So once we pull together our new plan, we'll look at how we deliver key elements and what those space requirements are.
Happy to take any questions from anyone, either from the brief or if you have a look at the impact report that we sent out online. If not, we'll hand back to Fergus to accept that.
So when I vote to accept and approve the 2020-2021 NUSU impact report, all those in favour, can you raise your hands now or put F in the chat? All those against, raise your hand now or put an A in the chat. And any abstentions, raise your hand or put a B in the chat. So with that, the impact report has passed. Finally, we're looking at consideration and approval of constitutional amendments over the past 12 months. However, there has been no major constitutional amendments to the NUSU constitution within that time period, so that concludes the AGM. It says here there will be a 10-minute break before we start Student Union Council, but I think if we can start back at 5:45, so we can all get away before the apprentice tonight, that would be fantastic. So ready to go, 7 minutes for Student Council.
You absolutely love that. You slayed it though, to be fair.
I like this too.
Fergus show, huh?
I want to leave like on the phone down. Should we get someone to take a picture of us for having
I want a picture.
Yeah, someone take a picture. George, would you take a picture so if Connor will want us to take Yeah. Everyone smile at George, please. It's Connor will want it for your voice.
Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. Yeah. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. And hello, and welcome to the fourth Council of the Year following our AGM. My name is Harris. I am the Chair of Council. NUSU Students' Council, if this is your first time, thanks Luke, if this is your first time attending this year, is using hybrid meeting technology to allow remote attendees in addition to being broadcast live on NUTV. So for the benefit of new members or members who perhaps haven't been for a while, I will give a very brief explanation on how contributing to council will work in this hybrid format. And this is in addition to the information that is present both virtually on the in the chat, on the screen, and the pieces of papers that are scattered around the room. And this is a very kind of brief explanation about how to contribute in certain ways. I would encourage councillors in their free time to look at the standing orders. It is a very interesting read for future council meetings. So for those of you who are present in the room, you need to make sure that you are a participant in the Teams meeting and can access the chat. If you are not able to do that, or you're not sure if you are doing that, please raise your hand physically now, and that will come along to assist you. Those online should, of course, be already able to access the chat. During Student Council, attendees may only speak with a raise of their hand. To allow for equal access between those who are attending virtually and those who are attending physically, this will be a virtual raising of the hand, which you do by typing your desire to speak into the chat. The additional benefit for me as chair means that I know the reason for which you wish to speak and I can prioritize you appropriately. So from this point onwards, if you raise your hand, it will be assumed it is because you're having a tech issue, not because you wish to gain the attention of the floor, and a member of staff will come and support you. Virtual attendees should be aware that the technology has been implemented to the best of our ability to allow for equal access. However, there is always a possibility for tech issues which are either on our end or your end that might impact your ability to contribute. This is a risk inherent with a virtual attendance and the multiple nuances of technology, and we can't always accommodate for it. So if need be, we may have to move on with your ability to contribute impacted. That's just an unfortunate reality of technology. The cheat sheet that is present explains the only acceptable ways that you can type into your chat. There's someone in the room who's got the call open. Please do not have that open. You just need to be into the chat because I can hear myself speak. Sorry, to reiterate that point, the cheat sheets that is present are the only acceptable ways to which you can type into the chat to indicate that you wish to speak. So when it comes to relevant times, I will re-explain what the codes are pertinent, but there are two which you can raise at any point in the meeting from this point onwards, and those are points of order and procedural motions. There are many points of orders, and I will not explain them all. They're all in standing orders, but the two most common, rather three most common and important ones are typing POC to raise a point of clarification, that is asking me as chair how you do something. So if everything I've rattled off to you has gone over your head, don't worry about it. Just type POC, ask a question in, and I'll reiterate what is relevant at that time. But do this only to ask me a question about council, not to gain a point of clarification from another speaker. POI is a point of information to offer a neutral point of clarity, fact, to correct a factual mistake someone has made. And type PM and then amendments and what amendment you want to make if you wish to amend a motion. More details and examples of that are in the cheat sheet. There are other codes to ask a question and to contribute for or against the motion, but I will mention those when we get to the relevant point in time. So for the first order of business, I'll just go over some notices to council in addition. So at the moment, PPE, face masks, etc. are strongly recommended, especially if you're not eating or speaking. If you're able to stand when you speak, please do, and say your name for the minutes. At the moment, how we're doing things is if you speak, please come to one of the three mics that are present in the room. There's two at the back and one at the front. But if you're unable to do so, please raise your hand and someone will come over with a boom mic towards you. But if you can turn up and move to one of the microphones, that would be appreciated. And please be courteous during the sessions. So the first order of business is to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. So at this point, if you wish to raise any objections to the previous minutes, if any of it is you believe incorrect, please type an O in the chat. If you wish to have any follow-up questions from the last meeting, please type Q in the chat. I will give the council 10 seconds, and if I hear neither of those in the chat, I will assume it is passed without objection. Drinking is hard. Okay, those minutes are passed. The next item on the agenda is to approve the steering committee report. So, as before, if you have any objections to the steering committee report that was sent in advance and is available on the Teams channel, please type an O in a chat within the next 10 or so seconds, otherwise it will be assumed to be passed. That's considered passed. Similarly, for the scrutiny and disciplinary committee report, again available in the resources, you can type a O in the chat if you have any objections, otherwise it will be considered to be passed. So there's one objection raised in the chat. So I believe it now goes to a vote through a show of hands. Let's double check, because I know I did this wrong the first time. you remember what happens if someone objects to a report? I always forget. Someone's objected. Progress.
I think one objection wouldn't change. One objection. Yeah. Can you, who is it that's objected, Harris?
I think it goes to a vote. Pretty sure it goes to a vote.
Well, it can just be show of hands.
Yeah. Well, no, because how people on the chat going to vote needs to be, does it show it needs to be an on-beer thing, right?
No, because they can just put their hands up in there. They can just show their hand, raise their hand. Online have on beer.
Yeah, so it needs to be, so we used to do it instead of an on-beer vote, right?
No, I think a show of hands would be fine because there's 4 people online and they can raise their hands online for 4 or against. They can just raise their hands in
Okay.
the Teams chat.
Right. So because there's an objection raised in it goes to a vote for and against. So if you are present in the room and you wish to vote for the report to pass the report, please put your hands up now. If you're in the chat, please type an F now. I know.
So, Harris, if you can ask the people who are objectors, they can come to the front and let us know what the objection is. If any of them are happy to tell us what the objection is.
Okay.
They can have a minute saying that, and then we'll just go to a vote, but it'll be show of hands.
Sure. Could I please ask Fergus if you could come to the front, please, and just explain the objection? Is that all right? You've got a minute if you need that long. Yeah.
Just very quickly. Thanks, Harris. I just think I would like to see more clarity and more information from the Scrutiny Committee report. I think given that it's one of the most important committees that we've got at NUSU, the reporting levels that we've had this year, I don't think have been up to standard. I think they've been quite vague. I appreciate that confidential information gets discussed at this committee, but I would like, and I think other members would like, more information as to what actually happens at this committee so we can get a full understanding of the operations and what goes on at NUSU.
We'll redo that show of hands vote. If you want to approve the minutes despite that objection, please raise your hand now or put a F in the chat.
So if you're in the room, they'll take a show of hands, and the people online will just raise their hands online. Okay, but the 2 of us will take the vote, and that's within the standard. So you're voting to pass the disciplinary scrutiny committee after hearing the objections on progress. So it's a simple majority for this. So if you're approving the report, you can raise your hands now. If you're in the room, you can just raise your hand if you're approving the report. That's 10 in the room, Angela. Is anyone online?
No. Okay, if you want to raise your hands now, if you want to vote against the motion, and if you haven't already, type in A in the chat if you're online and wish to object to report rather than the motion.
So we didn't hear that. If you're objecting to
And if there are any abstentions, please raise your hands now or put a B in the chat.
Harris, if you want to just move on, we'll do the calculations on that.
Okay. We'll go back to that. Is Abby presenting a State of the Union report in some fashion, or are they absent? George. Okay, I'd like to invite the Student Media Officer to come to the front and present the State of the Union report, please. Thank you.
Cool. That's going to be a bit tricky. Okay, good evening everyone. Welcome to Student Council. Thank you all for attending, and I've just got a few updates about what me and all of the SABs have been up to over the past sort of few weeks following the winter break. So I'll start with Bree. Bree has been working on two key areas following the winter break, two key areas regarding welfare of students. Those are spiking prevention and mental health and well-being. With spiking prevention, Bree has been working with the Alcohol Education Trust on a piece of research into student experiences of spiking and university support and reporting. And she's also collaborated with the society It Happens Here to bring in Check Your Drink spiking test kits. And is now also in contact with the Newcastle Licensing Department and the Council's Health and Wellbeing subgroups to discuss spiking. As for mental health and wellbeing, Bree has met with Sally Ingram, who's the head of Student Health and Wellbeing, to discuss the current mental health issues students face and the negative experiences with counselling services. So the topics of discussion there included long wait times of 400 students, discrepancies with referral and signposting processes, and confusion around how to access support and early interventions, and gaps in support while students wait for counselling. So ahead of this meeting, there was a survey as well, which was sent out to students. There were 22 responses there, and Bree collected the feedback there for the meeting with Sally. And lastly, Bree is also planning a new campaign surrounding regarding environment and sustainability. Okay. Next on to Harris, Activities Officer. Harris has been working on the engagement with students, so that's been back on the rise following the winter break. And January assessments as well, those are over now, so students are now back on campus, back engaging in societies and activities there. So the refreshers activities that Harris ran gave societies a chance to further boost student engagement, and refreshers there contained 3 days of additional training for executive committee members as well as social secretaries. Welfare officers also received SVLO training at those events, and refreshers was then capped off with the Societies Fair on the 2nd of February in venue. So 40 societies took part there, including the newly ratified societies as well. Now Harris is working on the Grad Ball and the Festival of Culture as well, and recently he's also been giving out special grants to societies. As for Fergus, again, following January exams, sport is back underway, and Team Newcastle and the Athletic Union are continuing to thrive. We've got, despite Newcastle's lower levels of sport funding and awareness compared to other institutions, we've managed to rise up to 7th place on the Bucks leaderboard, and Fergus is pretty sure that we're not done yet, so that's great to see. And for the first time in 4 years, a renewed Varsity competition with Northumbria is on its way, and the registration process is now open. That event will be kicking off on the 27th of April, and there's already a huge amount of excitement about the event, with more to be revealed soon. Elsewhere in the sporting world, Fergus has been in discussions with the university about transgender participation in sport, bringing back the Team Newcastle brand and identity, as well as some exciting progress regarding the participation with Stagecoach helping transportation to and from Cochrane Park as well. Okay. Fergus is also taking the lead on determining our new kit supply for the next 3 years following our contract with Canterbury Kit. And of course, this week, there has been the Home Truths campaign running. So Fergus has been leading this campaign, which is all about uprooting all of the housing issues from damp, disrepair, and bad landlords. So head over to the NUSU website now to voice your complaints and share your evidence with us. And now on to what Liv's been up to as well. So Liv has been working with the governance team at the university alongside EDI leads to develop and present training sessions on the importance of inclusive language at Newcastle. This is something to help all members of the university governance structure to feel more comfortable and learn the roles that they play in making Newcastle a welcoming and safe place. Liv has also been working with Abby and the academic registrar and the faculty deans to ensure that students felt supported, safe and able to effectively complete their assessments through January, following the kind of change in the public health situation over Christmas. This led to them helping the university to create comms to go out to the faculties and schools, and following this, faculties could then edit and adjust these comms on a school-by-school basis to ensure that the most appropriate measures were being taken for each module. Liv has also helped to create and establish a new structure and approach, for personal tutoring. And given the fact that student feedback in research has showed that students having a point of contact is a crucial and foundational element to their time at university, these improved personal tutoring systems will enhance the student experience as a result. And currently, Liv is in the initial planning stages of the A to Z guide for the website. And the idea behind this is that this will help students navigate the support that's available to them more effectively, so that things like PEC forms and personal tutors and school and course reps are there to be kind of taken and made use of. And this is all about empowering students and allow them to give much needed feedback to schools as well. On to Eleanor, our postgrad officer. Eleanor's main activity over the past couple of months have been working on a campaign that is specific to postgrad students. So the Just for Postgrads campaign finished the other week, and that was all about combating postgraduate isolation and providing ways for them to come together and socialise, as well as meeting new people and improving their well-being. There were lots of different events across the campaign, including a quiz night, CBT workshops and wellbeing workshops, and then also Give It a Go and Go Volunteer provided a great sort of varied event schedule, which included things like cocktail making, surfing, and free gym entry. A further key activity for Eleanor over the past couple of months has been feeding into the Pgr Delivery Plan. So this is a document to establish the new plan for what being a postgrad student at Newcastle looks like. Eleanor has been part of the several meetings on this and provided feedback to make the document more student-focused, and particularly around issues such as mental health and EDI. Lastly, Eleanor has been part of the group that helps NUSU to organise the upcoming student elections. So we've had a really good number of nominations so far and have run 2 candidate fairs to answer questions of potential candidates. Alongside this, the NUS referendum has also been planned alongside this. And elections planning as well. That's something that I've been focusing on in my time as student media officer. We have now got an elections planning subcommittee, so NSR, NUTV and the Courier can all coordinate the coverage of those events, debates and the results night as well. And since publishing the winter edition, I've been recruiting students for the remaining spaces on the Courier's team. So we now have 12 promising new team members after 23 applicants were interviewed by myself and the senior team, some of whom are here tonight as well. We're very happy with the result and the participation from students, especially compared to the summer recruitment as well. I've also been running induction sessions for these new members that covers introductions to kind of the structure of student media, as well as the summary of relevant media law and an introduction to Photoshop and InDesign as well. And we've got one more of those sessions happening next week with another 3 new team members joining us. Following on from that, a more advanced refresher training has also been given to the returning sub-editors across 10 90-minute sessions. The idea of this was to familiarise them with new Office PCs, as well as more detailed functionality available in the Creative Cloud software that we use. On top of this, we've got streamlined aspects of production to save time for sub-editors, senior editors, and myself on a weekly basis, and these changes have also been communicated to the team throughout those sessions. Branding has also been reworked on several levels. You might have noticed that NSR have a new look for their logo, and the Courier has also kind of gone down this route as well. We've now got new colour palettes, streamlined for sub-editors, and We've got individual section palettes as well, so that will make the paper look a bit more interesting design-wise, and also allow sub-editors sort of another tool in the toolbox for design experience as well. We've also got reworked student media afternoon branding to match the new look of NSR as well, and we've also been planning a 4th branch of student media to manage student-led branding and design in future. On top of this, I've been assisting NUTV with their event coverage, such as Rag Week, and upcoming partnerships with external brands, as well as Fight Night and student election coverage planning, like I said. And then the last thing from me is that I've also been helping NSR to plan their SRA conference, and we're all really looking forward to that. That's happening here on campus from the 19th to the 21st of April as well. And then the final thing from all of the SABs, we've also been working on focus groups to help inform the NUSU strategic plan that Simon mentioned in the AGM earlier. And that's all I've got for you. Thank you everyone for listening. I'll hand it back over to Harris now.
Okay, so just before we go on to a vote regarding the State Union report, the results from the vote on whether or not to pass the Scrutiny Committee and Disciplinary Committee report were 33% for and 67% against, so that report didn't pass. So we'll move on now to a vote on the State of the Union report. If anyone has any objections to the State of the Union report, please type a O into the chat. You have 10 seconds to do so. Okay, State of the Union report passes. Now we go over to the Office reports and Executive Committee minutes. These get passed as a block. So again, you have 10 seconds to raise an O for an objection in the chat, otherwise they're considered all passed. Okay. Those are all considered passed. We'll now move over to questions and mandates from the sabbatical officers. Can I please invite all of the present SABs to come up to the front of the floor, and if you could just give everyone a quick introduction of your names and your job titles, please.
I'm Livia and I'm the Education Officer.
Hi, I'm Eleanor, the Postgraduate Officer.
Fergus, the Athletic Union Officer.
George, Editor of the Courier and Student Media Officer.
Bree, Welfare and Equality Officer.
Harris, I'm the Activities Officer.
Please type a Q into the chat if you have any questions you wish to ask the staff at this moment in time.
Go on, something this week.
They want to watch the apprentice too.
Only Lukens, if you'd like to approach a mic of your preference.
This is a question to Olivia. Olivia? Eleanor, the postgraduate officer. Sorry. Brain fart. Eleanor, please. Sorry, Liv. Hi, Eleanor. With the UCU strikes being planned in the next couple of weeks, and postgraduate students sort of sitting in an interesting place between the Students' Union and the UCU, what are you doing, or what is the union doing to support these postgrad students during the time?
I want to say, obviously the result of our poll came out. The union is in support of the strikes. That's our stance. So we'll be reiterating that in key meetings to key university staff, and emphasising that we want the dispute to be resolved as quickly and easily as possible, with as little impact on all students, including postgraduate students. And to those PGRs in particular, many of whom may be striking themselves, as the union is coming into the union, is not classed as crossing the picket line, so the union will be here as a space for them throughout the strike action. They will obviously have access to all of our facilities, all of the same things they normally would have. I'll continue representing them in meetings and continue the work that I have been doing on sort of improving PGR treatment and PGR conditions, and then postgraduate conditions as a whole. We'll also be having study hours upstairs with refreshments, again, as this is a neutral space for all postgraduate students and all students as well, who are welcome to join and come and study or research. Good? Thank you.
Any more questions? In which case, thank you very much. Would you like to return to your seats? And now we move on to the meat of council, which is the motions. So, the first motion that we have is motion 301, constitutional motion to change role title of LGBT plus officer to LGBTQ plus officer. I would like to invite George Ward to the podium to present the motion. Once you're ready, you have 2 minutes to do so.
It does what it says on the tin. It changes the title of the LGBT plus officer to the LGBTQ plus officer to kind of bring the title in line with the most common abbreviation used by the community. You'll see in the notes section point 3, I've listed the LGBT Society changed their name to LGBTQ plus Society. And I think it makes pretty good sense to have all titles associated with the community to be kind of in a parallel. The reason, for those of you that don't know, that LGBTQ plus is a widely accepted abbreviation is largely because the Q, which can stand for queer or questioning depending on who you ask, covers quite a broad span of identities. A lot of people within the community can identify with the kind of queer title. So it's kind of a more umbrella term, which is why I believe it's a really good place for the abbreviation to stop. But yeah, basically it's just to bring in the title of the LGBT plus officer into alignment with the most commonly used abbreviation. Thank you.
Would anyone at this point like to ask any questions? So pose the 10 seconds. Please type a Q into the chat if you wish to ask any questions. No, thank you, George Wood. You can still, throughout this debate, ask questions, but they should be to the proposer about the intent of the motion, not questions to any speakers who speak against or for the motion. On that note, if anyone would like to speak against or for the motion, please type an A or an F into the chat, and I will come to you in the order in which it presents itself. I will give 10 seconds for a speaker to present themselves. How would you like to the podium or one of the mics at the back prefer? You got a minute.
Thank you, Harris. Yeah, so I seconded the motion not only because I believe that this new abbreviation does encompass everybody in the community, but it's also really important to be kind of current with the abbreviations that are being used, and LGBTQ is the one that is used Q to either mean questioning or queer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is the last call for any against speakers for the motion. You've got 10 seconds. Grand, in which case we'll move on to a vote. So, if you are struggling to get into Unrestricted, now's your time to raise your hand. Otherwise, please vote. close the vote there. And that vote has passed. Grand. So, congratulations, George. I'd like to invite Caitlin Halfas to the podium, please, to present motion 401, which is a late notice motion, but otherwise is treated exactly the same, for SU action to support of the UCU strike action.
For accepting a late notice motion. As you all know, both the UCU announcement and the Student Union polls came out after the announcements, after things had to be submitted. My name's Caitlin Halfacre and I'm a PhD student in linguistics. I'm in my 4th year, which means that strikes have affected every year of my postgraduate study, apart from the one that was always all completely a pandemic. So I do know the impact that this had on students, but I submitted this motion because I wanted to give the student voice something concrete to say. University institutions listen to students because students pay, and I'm well aware that the strike impacts students, but I want us to think about how the issues being fought for affect us as students, not just the strikes themselves. So what does it mean for a student experience when an undertrained, overworked PhD student only has 15 minutes to mark your essay? Or what does it mean when a module leader is preparing the materials at 1 a.m. because they're so overworked? Or when excellent teachers and researchers are leaving academia because they're over 30, still living in a shared house, haven't started saving for their pension, and can't handle the uncertainty anymore. What does it say about the inclusivity of this university when there's an ongoing, barely moving pay gap between those with and without disabilities, between male and female staff, and between white and black and ethnic minority groups? So this is why I want the Students' Union to support the strikes in specific ways. I want to mandate the sabbatical officers to be able to stand up not just for the student experience over the next few weeks, but for the ongoing and long-lasting impact that these fights have on students, which is very, very real. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask the proposer at this time, please type a Q into the chat. I'll give 10 seconds for any questions before I let the proposer sit down. Right, thank you very much. If you'd like to take a seat, that'd be great. So I'd like to open the floor for against or for speakers. If anyone wishes to speak against this motion, I see plenty of for speakers. If anyone wishes to speak against this motion, please type an A into the chat, otherwise we'll move to a for speaker. Okay, I'd like to invite Lydia Scott to a microphone of their preference to speak for the motion, please. You've got a minute.
Hi everyone, I just want to speak on behalf of all 7 of our sabbatical officers that we support this motion going through. As we put out a poll over the last week asking students to take their stance and say how what their opinions and feelings were on the strikes. That came back in support, with 53% in support and 43% against, and the other ones were abstentions. So therefore, as a team, we're fully in support of this going through, and just want to reiterate that our focus as a team will be to support our students, however that may be. And I just want to encourage you all to take some kindness, to use some kindness in this time, as it can be quite a divisive one, and just be kind to each other and respectful of other people's opinions. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. This will be a last call for any against speakers. Otherwise, we'll move straight on to the votes. If Elias wants to approach microphone of their preference, please. You have 10 seconds to, sorry, apologies, you have a minute, rather.
Sure.
To speak against the motion.
I appreciate this is a divisive one, and it's a difficult position to have. But my time at university, as mentioned, has been very fractured, very disrupted. whether it was the pandemic or the continuous attempts to strike that have failed. They've achieved nothing. I think that's something we need to remember. This method is failing, and with all sympathy for the staff, there needs to be a better way to secure better working conditions, better pay for those staff. So I beg of the union to think of the students, and you might think of the staff as well, but we are a students' union, and our priority should be the students. That's my appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to invite to a microphone Ashley Wilkins, speak for the motion.
Thank you. So I'm going to speak about this motion as a PGR, and I seconded this motion. PGR is an often forgotten member of the university community. We're treated as members of staff when it suits uni, and we're treated as students when it suits university, but never when it suits us. I think it's time that we change that. These issues raised in these 4 fights affect us the most, particularly issues around casualisation and inequality. We may not be the largest group of students in NUSU by a long way, but we're no less important. This is our union as well. Quite rightly, this SU will look out for taught students and, help mitigate their impact. But this must be coupled with PGR-specific support and working constructively with UCU to resolve the dispute. Now, these aren't two conflicting points of view. These are intrinsically linked fights. And I want to be clear that I think we all, on behalf of all of us, I think we think that the SABs in particular, and then Olivia, have been working hard for us on this, and we simply just want to mandate that their support continues and help give them the freedom to expand this where possible.
Thank you. Olivia Scott, you've got a point of clarity you wish to make?
Totally empathise. Like, I've been a student for no,
Point of
I just
clarity,
right. Okay, well, just that PGRs are students, so we are supporting students.
No, that's out of order. That wasn't what a point of clarity is for. I don't know what your intent was there, but that wasn't a point of clarity. If you are going to raise a neutral facts point of information, please. Kaylee, you have a point of clarity?
Yes, just a quick one.
Could you come to a mic, please, just for the people at home? Is this a check? Is it a point of clarity or point of information? Are you asking me about council process, or are you wanting to raise a fact?
No, it's just because they stated a fact that was wrong.
Then okay, that's fine. You can go ahead. That's point of information.
Okay.
Clarity.
So that strikes actually have worked, because I literally just did an interview with the branch secretary of the UCU called Matt Perry. Pension reform was actually released, and it did go to a panel with employers where they did actually discuss issues. And he did actually say, and he does work for the UCU, so we think we should listen to him, that strikes do work, just reform is going a bit slower than, they want. So yeah, they do work.
Sorry, I can't really accept that as a point of information. That was you reiterating someone's belief. That's not discussion. That's my stance on that. So I'd like Francis Riding, you have a point of clarity you wish to raise?
Yeah, just a quick one. I won't get that. I just want to say,
that's not, no, sorry, point of... For the benefit of the councillors, this may be my fault being not clear at the beginning of the council. A point of clarity. Order, please. I didn't hear it and I don't care. Order, please. Silence, or else I'll start kicking people out. I don't have the patience for that. A point of clarity is to ask me as the chair about how council works. Point of information is to raise a neutral fact, that is a fact, not reiterating someone else's opinion. Those are the two things that are acceptable, apart from a procedural motion to amend. So the points that were raised before don't really stand as in order. Going back to things which are in order, I'd like to invite Alex Walker to speak against the motion, please.
I just want to urge everyone to think very, very carefully about what the point of this council is. We're here to represent the interests and the views of students. When we declare a position, that is the position of the students, formally speaking. So I think it's fair to say that perhaps given that fact, we're not very representative. We're the people who want to come to student council. We're the people who want to do that work. And most students are not very interested in university politics. They just want to do a degree, learn, have a laugh, do all that stuff. So I don't think it's accurate to say that the majority of students support strikes. I think 53% of students, and just 53, of the students who did the poll support strikes. Therefore, we really shouldn't be declaring a position without a proper plebiscite, an advertised, fully taken up and very pushed poll. We need that in order to get this position.
George Rose, you have a point of information which to raise. If you could do it on microphone, please, that'd be great.
Because I think certain members of council seem to have missed the fact that PGRs are students. Point of information is that PGRs are students and that a 53% majority is a majority. You can't ignore the democratic process based on your own ideological alignments.
Okay, so if you could please go to Onbia and vote for or against the motion. Vote. So that motion has passed. Thank you. No. We're now going to move on to motion 402. If you want to raise a point, please do it in the chat as was previously instructed. We're going to move on to motion 402. Any future building development by or for NUSU must be built in a traditional style, Gothic, Jacobean, Classical, in keeping with the most beautiful and popular parts of our campus. I would like to invite William Hayes, please, to the podium to present this motion. You have 2 minutes.
This may seem parochial, irrelevant, unimportant in the modern age, but I think aesthetics and beauty should be a priority when it comes to development and architecture. I mean, there have been many studies and, social commentaries on how perhaps architectural styles used in the past make us happier, and that modern architectural styles are both repressive, oppressive, and depressing. Great monoliths that clutter our skylines that really evoke no romance, emotion, or beauty. I think another point to make is the fact that a lot of modernism in style is rooted in an early 20th century attempt to uproot what the styles, as I've listed a couple, Gothicism, Jacobean architecture, largely by people with slightly bizarre views. I mean, the father of modernism was Le Corbusier, who was an openly a Vichy French Nazi. And we see in Nazi architecture, the idea of Germania, these brutalist modernist ideas, and I think that represents the regime. We also see it in Stalinist architecture as well. Many of the great philosophers, politicians, and poets are. No worries.
Can I stick up for the questions, please, William?
I'm sorry, yeah, of course.
I do recognise some people have preemptively indicated their willingness to speak against the motion, but I didn't open the floor to that yet in the interest of fairness. please wait until I do so, just in case people are waiting to hear the motion before they indicate their willingness to speak. So that's not an invitation to offer more for or against either. I will let you know when I wish to accept for or against speakers. However, at this point, it's for questions, so I'd like to invite George Wood to pose a question, please.
Yeah, I'd actually like to agree with the proposer that it does seem parochial, irrelevant, and unimportant as a motion to go through. My question is, how on earth have you managed to draw parallels between architecture, Nazism, and Stalinism?
Because modernist architecture pushed by people like Le Corbusier, who is the godfather of this style and affects all of it, but therefore built after, did it because he believed in the Nazi idea that the house should function function over form. The house should be like a vehicle, a roof over the head, somewhere to go at the end of the day once you've done once you've done everything you need to do, and not really think much more about. I mean, these parallels are drawn one at a time and have been drawn retrospectively by several different thinkers. Like, well, I could list off a few, but they're in the motion. So.
Hello. Is the proposer aware that we are in a climate crisis and new technology is really, really important in housing and new buildings, generally across the world, considering housing and is one of the largest contributors to everyone's global. And under that has the proposer been to the Urban Sciences building? Because it's a very, very nice new building. It's also called the USB, which is quite a fun pun. I'd be very impressed if anything similar or anything even nearly as good could be developed these days. Thank you.
So I haven't been there. I've seen pictures of it. I think it, obviously there's an element of subjectivity to this, but I don't think you can build I agree. The climate crisis is certainly a pressing issue. Doesn't mean you can't build in a certain way. You can have sustainable. You can build sustainably and still make it beautiful. You don't have to just think about the function of somewhere. I don't think that's particularly relevant. No offence.
So my question is, are you serious?
Yes.
Good.
Thanks.
Is that all you need? I take matters of romance very seriously. I don't buy any of this kind of practicality, and you've got to think about what's important spiritually, not just functionally.
Hello, so my question is, so your motion mentions that certain types of modern architecture have been associated with movements such as Nazism and Stalinism. Are you aware that the types of traditional architecture you're talking about have also been with certain political points over the years that people may not like?
What ideas?
Well, yes. There's Christianity, and also there are many people who have tried to right-wing ideologies with the ideas of tradition or like old-fashioned ways of doing things. And I'm thinking it's not necessarily a matter of modernism being the only sort of architecture which has been associated with political views. So I'm just thinking, concerned about the politics behind this. Have you considered the politics connected with the sorts of styles you're advocating for as well?
Well, I wouldn't. I think it's very dangerous. I think it's very dangerous to associate. As my time as faith and belief officer kind of informs us. I think it's very, very dangerous to associate a religion with Hitler or Stalin, because I think many of the wonderful architectural styles that all the world religions, many of the world religions build in, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, are probably that way because they help the worshipper to feel a sense of spiritual enlightenment in being surrounded by beauty and glory, which is quite the opposite of what I think those regimes using those certain styles that I mentioned in the motion were trying to do. So I don't think you can equate, the very, very, very old and very long-lived religions that have had multitudes of different people believe different things underneath them to flash-in-the-pan ideologies that were objectively brutal.
Jack Train, you have a question?
Apologies.
If you want to remove the mic that's dying on your way back as well, that'd be good.
Hello.
Hi. So are you aware that many of these buildings you talk about architecture actually are quite inaccessible for users with disabilities, and that a lot of these buildings were developed in a way where the accessibility wasn't put at the forefront, whereas a lot of modern architecture, accessibility is put at the absolute forefront of any architecture?
I would say, much like my point I made to Owen, this is certainly true, but it doesn't mean we can't take accessibility and sustainability and put them in put them into buildings that look wonderful. I'm not saying we replicate every single facet of the past. I think we can take these considerations and put them, make them have influence on modern buildings. Nothing wrong with that,
Martha Dale.
I mean, no. That's the point of the motion. It's to dictate specific styles.
Past, I mean, how would that be even considered?
Well, it says in the motion that if NUSU, which is unlikely. Do we need more? I'm just saying if NUSU ever needs to develop a building or have a building developed for it, then it should be in keeping parts of campus that are the nicest and people tend to like. It says in the motion, but you never see a picture of the back of the Union, do you? It's always the front. You never see a picture of the Henry Daish building. It's always the Armstrong building.
But as stated previously, these types of building usually aren't accessible and aren't climate conscious.
So we'll build more that are accessible and are climate conscious. We can take the good parts and alleviate the bad parts. I think. That makes perfect sense?
No, that makes no sense. But okay.
Thank you. I'll take the last question from George Wood.
Yeah, just a really quick one.
Yeah, just a really quick one. Did the last 150 years happen to you?
Yes. Please refrain from making personal remarks to proposers. That consider that a warning, George. Okay. The point of information from Lewis.
Thank you, Harris. Just so people know, even if a motion such as this were to pass, requirements for sustainability and accessibility will always be there. They're a requirement of the planning process. So, as I believe Will said, it would have to be considered alongside those things. That there's no way that, regardless of what you pass, that sustainability or accessibility are ever sacrificed.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, William. Thank you. If you'd like to take the floor. I'd like to open the floor up. So all the previous against and for pitches, so to speak, are disregarded, and now the floor is open for against and for speakers. So if you wish to type into the chat your desires to speak. I'd like to invite Fergus Mainland to a microphone to speak against the motion, please. You have a minute.
I thought it was 2. This makes this interesting. Well, in that case, I'll sort of skip to the second half of this. If we cast our eyes around the UK, then we often arrive at Sheffield's Student Union, an institution that's been ranked, or one of the top student unions, actually top for 4 years in a row. And no wonder, it's a modern building for modern students that meets every need that they have. And let's not forget that beauty is, of course, subjective, and so is the wonderful industry that is architecture. So what some people view beauty is really quite ugly in other people's eyes and perspectives. I like the Armstrong building, but I also think the new LA Rams Stadium is sublime. The new Stevenson building will be a bastion of engineering. And as for the Scottish Parliament, it's been described as a sparkling excellence, and it went on to win awards. And I think the only awards that Westminster's won recently is their best club night during lockdown. I think it's also worth noting that one of our student union values is to be progressive, innovative, imaginative and creative. So I think that's, as we go forward, we look to find and support the next generation of great ideas, looking forward to new opportunities and pushing boundaries rather than imitating what's already been achieved.
I would like to invite Alex Walker to speak for the motion. You have a minute.
Well, I'd just like to begin by saying Will does take to be from 150 years ago. I know much less about aestheticism than him. My relation to aestheticism is personal in a real way, you know. I was in Edinburgh this week and walking around that beautiful, beautiful city. And what's beautiful about it is non-objective. Nobody seriously goes to Edinburgh and walks around going, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And then goes to my hometown Coventry and goes, wow, this is better. I really love how it was levelled. It's not objective. Beauty has never been objective. It never will be objective. A beautiful city is beautiful because it is beautiful. And an ugly city is ugly because it is ugly. And the Daesh building, that's quite ugly. This building, very, very beautiful.
As a resident of Edinburgh, it's a pretty sweeping statement. Parts of Edinburgh are nice, other parts really aren't.
Informations to factual content. I think at this point that should be understood, so the next person who doesn't follow that will face sanctions appropriately. I'm going to move to a vote now anyway, so if you could get... Yes, please. So if you'd like to vote for or against the motion? Okay, we can close the vote. That motion has failed. Okay, order please. Right, so we move on to the next order of business, which is elections for positions selected at council. The first set as for disciplinary committee, if the scrutiny officer would like to...
The question was, you've got disciplinary and scrutiny at the same time.
By all means.
So, disciplinary committee only meets when necessary on something on disciplinary matters. So, it doesn't require too much of your time, and members are randomly selected. But they basically deal with any disciplinary matters that are passed on from scrutiny. So that one's quite easy. Scrutiny committee, those are 2 re-election seats available because 2 members failed to attend regularly, but anyway. So Scrutiny Committee basically reviews the operation reports, then and then from there get questions, then ask the either chief executive or the president about these sort of things and take the feedback. Yeah. So, but yeah, they only Scrutiny, when it comes to reporting things, only really tend to report things when and when necessary. So, but also in regard to the Scrutiny report, after having a very brief conversation with the chief exec, has been noted that I've noted a few things with him where things can be a bit. I was a bit unsure on what could or could not be included because the confidentiality agreement that we have, but things have been clarified now that I can include the questions that we've asked. So yeah, so from now on, the Scrutiny reports will actually be filled with questions that we ask, because you do ask them, but it's just that I wasn't sure if such things could be said. Right, does anyone have any questions on disciplinary or scrutiny?
I mean,
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, that's for you, my apologies.
There is a question from Owen Lukens. Is this well, is this to do with the committee?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm on the scrutiny committee, and I believe I said to the disciplinary committee, I'm not sure I've actually done anything.
Yeah, discipline's not met yet, so I'm not sure.
Cool. Well, on the
Scrutiny Committee, why were the two places needing re-election, sorry?
Because two members, Miles Ogden and Harry Jones, were uncontactable by email, and they didn't send apologies for any meetings.
Okay, cool. I was just checking because I believe the policy that you go by when you sort of open re-election is when someone doesn't come to, I believe it's 3 meetings?
Yeah, it was more than 3. It's been discussed already with union staff.
Cool,
So
but the policy is 3 in a row. And could that have anything to do with the fact that most of the meetings were put up 1 day, 2 days in advance and gave very little notice regarding when the committee was actually going to meet?
Can I answer that? Because that's... Can I respond to that?
Because it was raised, yes.
The one-day meeting was a one-off thing, which I apologise for profusely. But apart from that, I mean, have you checked your emails recently? As you can tell now, there was meant to be a meeting yesterday, but several committee members were ill and gave apologies. So as you can tell now, it is to be every Wednesday from now forward. But yeah. Because before there was an issue with members that could or could not attend, but now it's always Wednesday. But that one-day meeting was a one-off occasion that was apologised for profusely because the email hadn't sent.
If you wish to submit your name for either 2 places available for the disciplinary committee or the 2 places available for the screening committee, please, as George Wood has illustrated quite excellently, write your name and the position you wish to apply for. Whilst we're waiting for people to do so, I would like to ask if the Welfare and Equality Officer could come to the front and describe the Welfare Campaigns and Liberation Executive, please. Is it you?
Sorry. My head is in a bit of a daze today, I must say.
That's okay, I feel it.
That time of the day. So Welfare Campaigns and Liberation Exec, we meet once a month, usually on a Wednesday after lectures have finished. The group features myself, your liberation officers, and we have Nightline, who very graciously come and give us updates. It's a vital place where you can feed into the work we're doing at NUSU, hear about initiatives which are going on in the university. I really like to use it as a space as well to hear your opinions on things. So if I'm talking to the university, let's say about mental health, and I've come up with a proposal, I love to share that and hear your thoughts. So yeah, it's a really great place to feed into work. And also if you have any campaigns you want to run, it's a great place to share those ideas and we can workshop them. So yeah, that's about it. Anyone have any questions?
If anyone would like to nominate themselves for WCLE, please put your name in the chat and indicate that's what you're going for. We have one candidate for scrutiny, which is George Wood. So I will allow for 10 seconds for anyone to object for this nomination. If we receive no objections, then this is considered to be passed, and George Wood will be elected into that position. Okay, that's passed. Congratulations, George. You're on the Scrutiny Committee. Okay, we now move on to the penultimate order of business, which is student notices. If anyone wishes to declare, announce, notify council about anything in particular, please type a Q into the chat and I will give you the floor. George Wood, if you'd like to approach a microphone, please.
Yeah, sorry, I know everyone's had a lot from me, so it'll be the last one. Just to make everybody aware, on the, hold on, let me get my dates right. Between 4 and 8 on Wednesday, the 23rd of February, there will be a LGBTQ plus sex education event held somewhere. We haven't got a room yet. But just please, eyes out for comms, and please come along and get some free food and ask some questions. Questions? Questions. It's been a long day, sorry.
Olivia Scott.
Have I done it right by putting in what question is? I'm very foggy, yeah. Just a little PSA that I know I said it before, and I know industrial action's coming up and it's stressful for those taking part and for students at the minute. I know, I get it. I'm just begging you all to be nice and be kind to each other and be respectful of other people's opinions. I understand that it's contentious. I understand that you might not agree with the stance that we took. You're totally entitled to that opinion, but we asked for opinions and that's informed our stance. And I just want to emphasise that our position will always be to support students. That includes PGRs, it includes whoever you are, regardless of your opinion. That's our priority, and that's what we're going to be working with. So I'm just kind of sending a bit of a plea to be nice and respectful over the next few weeks, because they might be hard for a lot of people for different reasons, and just, yeah, be respectful of the team, of yourselves and each other and staff. Thanks.
Thank you. Elias, you wish to raise a point of order?
Just a little question, just to clarify. I'm not sure.
Could you come to one of the mics, please, so we've got home and hear you?
Hopefully I'm wrong on this, but on the last motion we just had on the architecture motion, didn't we have 2 speak for and 1 speak against? Sorry, 1 speak for and 2 speak against.
Sorry, say the last bit again?
So on the architecture motion that we just had, we had 2 speak against and 1 speak for.
No, that's keeping down, yeah. I was doing a tally. We had 1 speaker for, 1 speaker against. Yes, there were some out of order comments, which is disappointing, but that happened. Where were we? Oh, and Lukens, rather, apologies. You have a notice you wish to raise.
Hello, yes, sorry. This just to tell everyone who's interested, there is a big
protest happening on Saturday at, I believe, 1 p.m. at the Civic Centre. This is regarding the Police Crime and Sentencing Act, which is still going through Parliament, is still bouncing back. This is an incredibly important law that's trying to be passed, one that is like a landmark in our time and super, super important we do something about now, if that is of your opinion. So yeah, 1 p.m. Civic Centre, it will probably be rather large. There'll probably be a good old police presence because they hate protests. But hey, if we stick together, we can all get through this and hopefully not live in a police state. Thank you.
Lizzie Mead.
Hello. I just wanted to say that as Environment and Ethics Rep, I have been working on trying to get together more members to this project I'm trying to get permission for, to build a frog pond. I'm currently looking to start a frog society to work on that project, and I'm trying to get at least 15 people to ratify it. I'm also trying to get at least 15 people to re-ratify the People and Planet Society, if anyone is interested in that. No experience is required. We just expect some level of interest in the environment and or social issues, but you don't have to know anything going in. And also, I've been in contact with the Minds the Gap Society, and they are definitely looking for more members, especially as they are having an election within their society soon. So if you're interested in what the Mind the Gap Society does, the mental health and wellness sort of stuff, you may want to sign up. Other than that, I can't think of anything else.
I should know it ends because I'm running it, but can't remember these many things. Brianna, Gordon.
Two things from me today. One is kind of giving notice of what's going on in regards to a point that was made earlier, but I didn't want to detract away from the motion at the time. And there was a comment about stagnant disability and racial pay gaps. Now, I just want to provide some reassurance that there are lots of people actually working on this and are really committed to this within the university, and I've seen the figures for myself. It's slower than we'd like, obviously. But there is stuff happening within the university here, and I hope to be a part of that in the next welfare officer, so yeah. The second point is, as I mentioned earlier, or as George mentioned earlier, I'm running an environment and sustainability campaign. It's actually more focused on green careers, kind of with the idea that students know climate change is an issue. We want to take steps, but look beyond individualism. So it's opening up green careers to show that, like, any career can be a green career. It's about what you do within your vocation, if that makes sense. Anyway, all of the advertising, banners and things are going to be made from recycled materials, and I'm asking you all if you have any any rubbish that's green, yellow or brown, or just any rubbish. There's going to be collection points around the uni next week. So yeah, please just give me your rubbish. And if you'd like to get in touch with the campaign, do let me know. Thank you.
Thank you. Meg Howell, you have a...
Plus Society, they are running a trans clothes drive for the rest of the month, and all of their events up until they finish on the 28th of February, there will be collection bins for anybody to place any clothes that they would like to donate as part of the drive. So if anybody has anything that they can donate, that would be really, really appreciated.
Thank you. A bit of check to manage nominations for elections closing on the 18th at midday, in case you were wondering. Martha Dale.
Hi, it's just some information about an event that's happening if you're a student that wants to support striking lecturers and PGRs. There's going to be a banner making event next Tuesday, 12:30 till 2:30 in the Daniel Wood room. Come along if you want to help support striking lecturers and that. Come and speak to me. We've got some students doing a few things over the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Thank you. Brianna Gordon.
Sorry, I've got one more.
Meg reminded me, thank you. I'm hosting an event in collaboration with LGBTQ+ Society for Valentine's Day. It's going to be a safe space night for friends, singles, couples. We're going to come along and make some cards. It's kind of a bit of a last-minute endeavour that started last week, so the promo hasn't really gotten out as much as it needs to. So if you could share the word, yeah, it would be really nice. It's going to be a cute night with drinks, nibbles and all sorts, so hopefully you see that.
Thank you, and one final notice is that it is Eleanor's birthday. If Thank you. I mean, So we move on to the open debate. The open debate now. If I can't remember, was it either Ellen or Olivia? One of you someone can propose this open debate. Is it George? Yes, come propose it. So the open debate is what would make you want to interact with the university about your student experiences. George, if you'd like to take it away. Pardon? Yes, and explain the context around it.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's been raised by a number of committees, high-level university management, staff, that it's really, really difficult for academics and for staff to get kind of a good cross-section of student voice and to find out how students are finding their student experience at Newcastle. In my experience as a school rep and as an officer, it's also, I can empathise with that. It's very, it's very difficult to sometimes get a good cross-section of all of the voices within the student body about their experience. So this debate is really here just as an opportunity for a discussion about types of events and types of interaction with the university and with your representatives that you would be interested in, and also any ideas that you might have that could contribute to this debate. So, thank you.
Anyone would like to offer an opinion, argument, a point on the subject? Please type a Q into the chat and I'll award the floor to you. I'll give 15 seconds for that. Okay, well, there's hardly no opinion to be offered at that point, so we'll move on. So that's council, everyone. The conference almost over. Thank you all for attending. Alex, you can have your conversation not when I'm speaking, that'd be grand. Thank you all for attending. I have the drink tokens for roofers here. So once I close council, if you wish to come and collect that. Other than that, when's it council? 17th March, right?
17th.
Well then, whoa. I have not adjourned the council. Tricks now and next council will be the elections, and you'll see an increasing amount of comms around it. Please engage in that. It's an important democratic procedure. Thank you, everyone.